Hey there, welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We've got a dip in solar activity. Coronal whole high-speed stream finally showing up and looking kind of weak. As summer draws to a conclusion, here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, we are bringing you the most detailed daily space weather and solar imagery that you'll find anywhere in the world. So thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. That's yesterday plus today in 171 angstroms. Active region setting in the northwest. Newly named region right here. That's sunspot 3103. And also a region, I think this region is going to get a name here. I mean, that looks like a separate sunspot to me, but whatever. We'll see what happens. And there is the colorized magnetogram. So yeah, a little bit of a lull in solar activity here. Let's check volcanoes before we get to more space weather phenomenon. Remember, folks, if a supervolcano happens, it could become space weather. Anyway, Shivaluch is erupting, producing a 13,000-foot ash column. Abiko, 10,000-foot ash column from Abiko. Alade in the northern Kurils, that's south of Kamchatka. 9,000-foot ash plume from Alade. Kadavar, 5,000-foot ash plume as Kadavar explodes. Mount Ibu in Indonesia exploding, 7,000-foot ash plume from Ibu. Indonesia has East Javan volcano Semeru exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume. Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia, 22,000-foot ash plume. Sabancaya and Revenador in Ecuador both exploding. Flight level 220 over Sangay, flight level 150 over Revenador, and flight level 220 over Peru from Sabancaya's explosive activity. It's a 22,000-foot ash plume. Don't pole vault the caldera. Seismic activity has gone from low to high in the past 24 hours. We've had multiple 6+ magnitude quakes, at least 2 at Taiwan. The largest quake of the past 24 was this 6.9 right on the coast of Taiwan right there. There's a location of that. And indeed, there was a foreshock. So there was some pre-warning on this one. That 6.9 magnitude quake came in at 6:44 Universal Time just this morning. So let's scroll up the list here. So here you can see there was a 6.5 that happened at 13:41 yesterday. You could say that it's a foreshock. Chile saw a 5.1. And then Taiwan had a 5.1. And a 5.5, and a 4.7. And a 4.6. So lots of shaking going on there at Taiwan. And then some more quakes happened, a 4.7, a 4.6, a 5.6, a 4.5. A 5.2, and then there you go. There's that 6.9. Expect to see aftershocks continuing in that area. Some quakes happening north of there also, like this 5.7 to the northeast of that 6.9 magnitude quake. So yeah, the most seismically active portion of the planet, Taiwan, for the past 24 hours. Also a 5.5 happening there in the Solomon Islands region. And getting back to space, this is the last 48 hours. From SDO, that's 335 angstroms, one of the many ionized iron species that is followed by the SDO. And the radial flux has come down, I think, 132 solar flux units. So kind of leveling off here is the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. There's the 1-year graph of that. We're continuing to see lower highs and higher lows for the most part. Little ramp up here in the past couple of weeks. And there may be some new activity, by the way, rising over the southeastern limb. So you can see a little bit of a bright spot happening there in the corona. Right down there, some brightening happening. So perhaps a new active region rising there. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. That's NOAA's forecast, by the way. And yeah, not really a lot of geomagnetic unrest or geomagnetic storm conditions. The coronal hole high-speed stream that we've just seen arrive is looking kind of weak. We'll get to the coverage of that here momentarily. First, the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space. Our Geospace Magnetosphere movie, showing magnetohydrodynamic pressure. As summer ends, we are approaching the equinox, folks. The equinox is Thursday, September 22nd, just after 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Also the last 4 hours, the scale here, magnetic flux density, or nanotesla. So not a particularly exciting coronal hole high-speed stream here. Perhaps most of the plasma streaming over the Earth to the north. We'll see if it intensifies, but at the moment, we've got a KP3, planetary K index of 3, geomagnetically calm conditions. So here we just saw the ramp up, as you do when coronal hole wind streams happen. Density made it only to 14.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Now the speed coming up here to standard coronal hole high-speed stream levels. You can expect it maybe to go a little over 500 here. Current conditions are about 11.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, 478 kilometers per second. Minor uptick there in the plasma temperature, and some shifts happening in the magnetic field. Pretty minor, though, so far as the high-speed stream. Here are the GOES magnetometers for the past 3 days. Nothing to write home about there. You do see some variations happening here as the high-speed portion of the coronal hole wind stream arrives. No real surprise there. It's plasma from space. Earth has also recently moved into a North Pole current sheet, as you can see here from the top view ecliptic plane field plot. And I would expect the North Pole current sheet to stick around here. It looks kind of small there, so we'll have to see what happens with that. That might be hanging out based on the activity I see in the southern hemisphere at the moment. So here's a line of sight field plot. It shows the sun's B field in blue. Solar polar fields in red for south and green for north. And let's move to coronal holes. So we've got some pretty funky coronal holes here. We've got a little bit of a magnetic tug-of-war happening in the southern hemisphere. It looks like the south coronal holes are winning out at the moment. So it looks like most of the coronal holes visible here are indeed south polarity. And let's take a look at this in 211 angstroms from the SDO. That's yesterday plus today's data. And those coronal holes looking very well defined now, so we can expect a high-speed wind from those in about 4 days. So that's something to look forward to there. And those are right on the solar equator. So those are sending protons that are likely to strike the Earth with pretty significant force. So about 4 days you can expect some coronal hole high-speed stream impacts around the equinox on the 22nd. We're going to get to sunspots next. First, if you'd like to support the channel, become a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. You can join at the gold or silver level. The best value is the gold annual paid-up subscription level. Thanks to our Smash Team members, there is a credit crawl coming. It's coming back, folks. We used to have a credit crawl for Patreon, and we are still on Patreon as well, by the way. Take a moment to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube. Thanks to our new subscribers over on YouTube. Congratulations on realizing that the channel exists. We cover more than space weather and meteorology. We've been slacking a little bit because I've been kind of busy with other things, but still coming at you every day with the most detailed space weather and most detailed imagery of the sun you'll find any place on the internet. Check out our different playlists like driving, riding, and pro tips, terms defined, the diamond anvil too hard to smash, smashomash.org presents the sun, Lots of videos besides the daily space weather and meteorology content. Thanks again to our new subscribers over on YouTube. Thanks to all of our subscribers over on YouTube. And let's pause for a station identification. We're going to get to sunspots here in a moment. First, let's talk about our featured products. If you haven't seen our merch, check it out. You can find links below the video as well as on the homepage. And today's featured product is MANSA, which stands for Make America Not Suck Again, which is not a political slogan whatsoever. I have no affiliation with a political party and never have. I think I'm way too nuanced in most issues to comport to any political parties. I just don't line up. And if you click the links below the video or on the homepage at smashomash.com or the Smash Team page at smashomash.com/smashteam, you'll find these products listed in order of best selling. Perhaps pick up a Fauci Face of Evil bath mat and put your feet on the face of evil daily. Today's featured product is Make America Not Suck Again. If you've noticed, America's been sucking for the past, couple of years? I would tend to agree. So I'm wearing the shirt. Since I believe America leads the way in so many things, I would say to you, MANSA, make America not suck again. Maybe that will make the rest of the world not suck so hard. So pick up a hat, pick up a shirt, and a bunch of other products offered there as well. Dresses, skirts, laptop sleeves, stickers, art prints, tapestries, drawstring bags, tote bags, and more. I guess those masks are kind of ironic. Stop breathing bacteria all over your face and into your lungs, and stop with the lack of understanding that masks do not and have never prevented a pandemic. MANSA, make America not suck again. It's up to you. Not heaving bureaucracies that can't even get out of their own way. So do your part. Think global, act local, and make America not suck again. Did you know we're also on Twitch? Twitch.tv/smashomash. And we're also on Twitter. So follow us over there. Thanks to our new followers over on Twitter. Take your own health into your own hands by becoming a member of SureMed, the American Better Health Organization, a nonprofit organization which is not insurance, focused on improving the health of its members. Now, there is insurance that you can pick up. However, the base membership is just features like doctors by phone, virtual veterinarians, counselors by phone, dental discounts, vision discounts, and more. It's not going to conflict with your insurance because, again, it's not insurance. It is certainly worth the $20 per month membership fee. SureMed. You can find links on the homepage and below this video, as well as at smashomash.com/smashteam. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. And let's get back to the weather in space. Next thing we'll be showing is indeed sunspots. So let's take a look at sunspots here on the SDO intensitygram. And they are all in the southern hemisphere at the moment. This is yesterday plus today's data. Some sunspots evaporating there in the southern hemisphere. Check it out. All those groups are gone at the moment. And here is your flare probability. 3102, certainly capable of producing large flares, so that would be probably the most likely to see a large flare at the moment, as 3098 is finally far enough out of view that we're unlikely to see any more large flares from it. And let's take a look at some composite imagery here. This is the 171 plus colorized magnetogram. So we have seen some M-class flares here, 2 decent-sized M-class flares since yesterday. And we'll show some footage of that also in the 131 plus 94 angstroms wavelengths. So let's get that going. Here's 94 angstroms. So those flares in actuality coming from sunspot 3098, a prime example of how a sunspot that's well out of view can produce a major solar flare. So there you go. We're going to zoom in on that. That's yesterday plus today's data. A little double M-class flare happening there in 94 angstroms. And indeed, there is some activity here coming up over the eastern limb. As you can see there, some major brightening happening there. So that's something interesting. Here's 131 angstroms. And give that a moment to load as we pause once again for station identification. This is the Smash News Network least busted name in news. So there you go. There's yesterday plus today in 131 angstroms. And there's that double M-class flare. So no new spikes here in the proton flux, just a steady, slight uptick there in the proton flux. Nothing to write home about. It's only causing minor polar radial blackouts. No big deal. Here's a star chart. Venus and the Sun just rose here over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. If you want to put in your star chart, head to in-the-sky.org, put in your location. You can make your own star chart. Ours faces the south because that is the direction of the ecliptic from the northern hemisphere. Also Mars and the Moon and Jupiter up there. Next, a solar system forecast. Here's the 1-week forecast for the solar system as we approach a new moon. There's where things will be in a week. We will have a new moon on the 25th of September. And let's take a look at some coronagraphs. I don't know what is up with that. Yesterday's data looking koofed. What in the hell? There's today's data. Let's refresh that. Loading. Okay. Give it a minute. We apologize for the delay. Anyway, there's the coronagraph imagery from yesterday. We do not anticipate any of those coronal mass ejections to be earthly directed, based on some imagery we're going to show you here momentarily from stereo A. So that's yesterday's coronagraph imagery, 107 frames worth. Here's today's imagery, only 31 frames worth. Coming at you a little bit later than normal today. Let's take a look at the view from stereo A and the Soho Lasco C3. Please note the time and date stamps at the bottom of the images. They are slightly different time frames there. And from what we see on stereo A here, it looks like none of this solar ejecta is headed toward Earth. It's all off to the north. That's our best guess based on the available data. And let's continue on to look at solar filaments. This is the Lermonth, Australia ground-based solar observatory. And there are still a lot of filaments on the closest star here on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Lots of dark absorption features up here. Those are filaments. Remember, folks, we don't need to see coronal mass. We don't need to see solar flares or sunspots to see coronal mass ejections. We saw many coronal mass ejections at solar minimum. And we even accidentally figured out how to forecast them. Who would have guessed? It's a weird thing about science, folks. With science, we often ask questions and don't receive answers to questions, but instead receive answers to questions not asked. That's what happened largely with the channel. We were not expecting to explain sunspot cycles or to be able to forecast coronal mass ejections. It's just a thing that happened, so be it. So this is the GOES 16 SUVI. What's cool about this is it shows a wider field of view, so when a CME does happen, it's well depicted on this. It's got a lower resolution than the SDO, but it does have a wider field of view. So we'll be streaming this again today, I think, on Twitch, twitch.tv/smashamash. And let's get to our bonus feature segment. So we do have some surface charging hazards here caused by low-energy electrons building up on the surface of satellites. Moving into the Central Pacific at the moment. Not a real big charging hazard situation, and the electron flux is dropping. So there you go. That's a 3-day electron flux from the GOES 16 and GOES 17's radiographic measurements. And NOAA nailed the forecast 2 days in a row. Check it out. The yellow diamond right in the middle of the green square. And I would expect this next one to be a little bit lower. I don't know why NOAA expects it to be higher. I expect it to be lower. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. There's the 1-year chart to put it in context from solin.info. Let's take a look at the F ionosphere layer, which is located about 300 kilometers of altitude. It's one slice of the atmosphere in vibrational frequency. We're seeing mostly high-frequency anomalies at the moment. So following the last coronal hole high-speed stream, which was extended and quite interesting, we're seeing high-frequency anomalies here going on and on for an extended period of time. If you're not familiar with looking at the ionogram, the vibrational frequency itself, the raw data, here's the anomalygram showing anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. So lots of blue there on the map. Those are the high-frequency anomalies. The red portions are the low-frequency anomalies. And the latest image is from 11 o'clock Universal Time. Highest frequency portion of the ionosphere there, moving toward Papua New Guinea. We're going to show the electron flux only for North America because the worldwide view has been broken for days. So here is the electron flux over North America. We'll show the total electron content, the standard deviation, and the anomaly. So there's the total electron content, showing you the most likely places for GPS errors. And here's a standard deviation. And there is the anomaly. That's anomaly from the 10-day average. And our regular viewers are well aware that most GPS errors occur around the equator at noon. So let's move on. So here's the latest intensitygram from SDO, and here's the latest colorized magnetogram. And of course, this sunspot group right down here is the most likely place to see major flares at the moment, although we may see some major flares rising over the southeastern limb. That is a beta-gamma class sunspot group. There's the rockback, And let's bring up one more series of images here. This is 304, 211 plus 171 angstroms. And what that means is that it's time to move to meteorology, as we've got some interesting things happening in the realm of meteorology here as well. A hurricane, or a hurricane warning at least, at Puerto Rico. Some big rain forecasts expected. Let's take a look at planet Earth. The winds and the sea surface temperature anomalies. So the water is pretty average as far as its temperature here at the moment, not extra hot, not extra cold. And there's certainly a lot of convection available. If you look at the regular sea surface temperature, the water is indeed quite warm around the shallow waters of the Caribbean. So that's less than optimal. Huge rainfalls expected for Puerto Rico. We will show the rainfall forecast here momentarily. First, the surface winds as a typhoon crashes into southern Japan. Here are the jet streams of the east. Backward jet stream over the northern Indian Ocean and parts of the western Pacific. Here are the jet streams of the western world. Like sands through the hourglass of time, these are the jet streams of our lives. Here are the surface winds of this side of the planet. And by the way, those may be approaching hurricane force winds, but I don't think quite hurricane force winds there, so it's very close to being a hurricane. It's certainly going to drop enough rain to cause some damage, I would say. Certainly some serious flooding expected, especially for the western portion of Puerto Rico. Last I checked, here are the surface winds of the central world and the jet streams of the central world. We're going to get the forecast here in a moment. First, the U.S. weather.gov map, and things pretty calm here across the U.S., although some coastal flood warnings there on western Alaska as a tropical system there crashes through the Bering Strait and starts to weaken as it reaches into colder waters. So here are some forecasts. Here's the total accumulated precipitation forecast for the U.S. Heavy rains coming to northern California, but the real story is indeed in the Caribbean. Look at all the rain falling in the southwestern Atlantic. So here's the forecast, and still expecting about a foot of rain there for portions of western Puerto Rico. Suboptimal, 7 inches for large portions of Puerto Rico. So I would expect that to cause some flooding. It is a mountainous island, especially the southern portion. That's a 72-hour GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast for the West Atlantic. We'll also show the wind and pressure map. That system is expected to slowly make a turn to the north. And we'll be watching that in the coming days here to see what's expected to happen next. It is going to gain some strength there as it goes up into the Atlantic. You can see the pressure dropping down from like 990, and that's millibars, dropping from about 990 millibars down to about 950 millibars. So it is expected to intensify there as it moves up to the north. That's a 72-hour wind and pressure forecast from the GFS model. And here's what's going on at the moment. Wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour there. But sustained wind, I don't think quite so high. More like 50 miles an hour, according to windy.com's data. Again, not changing the fact that it's going to rain 7 inches over most of the island of Puerto Rico. So that's quite a lot of rain there. And 12 plus inches expected in some localized spots. Let's just take a look at the Euro model here. Let's switch to pressure. And we're going to zoom out, and we're going to play the Euro model for the next 3 days. So it's also going to scrape into the eastern portion of the Isle of Dominica, the Isle of Hispaniola, rather. The Dominican Republic going to receive the most of that. Then it certainly does look like it's gaining strength there as it moves to the north. The Euro model placing the pressure pretty similar there. So the GFS model expecting it to be a little bit more intense at about 950 millibars. This is showing 962 hectopascals, and let's move on here. We don't want the video to be too long. Here's the lightning mapper. And most of the lightning in that tropical system there on the trailing end, the southeastern portion of it. We have some terrestrial lightning in the U.S. Let's take a look at our real-time lightning map at lightningmaps.org. So what do we have here? We've got some active cells here around the Missouri-Illinois border, northwest of St. Louis. Some thunder rolling in places like Montgomery County, Callaway County, Columbia, Missouri. Also an active cell here south of Kansas City. Looks like it's calming down. Anyway, there's the worldwide lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Here is a U.S. Doppler radar map from radar.weather.gov. As heavy rains begin to fall in Northern California. So that's the ground-based Doppler radar weather, showing vertical motion of water droplets in the air column. Those storms are pretty strong there, looking like they're going to be missing Chicago to the south, as they're making a little bit of a turn to the east. So here's our 3.9 nanometer radiation satellite. It shows clouds and fog. It's too dark over most of the country to show a visible satellite. Here is water vapor. As we approach the equinox, folks, summer is almost over. Make the most of what's left. And let's bring up a bonus feature here. We're going to bring up the full disk view in visible satellite, since the shadow is about to become vertical. Let's bring up 20 frames here. So there you go. Great satellite imagery there on the visible satellite. Let's take a close-up of this. That's too close. Going to switch the zoom here to low. We're going to zoom in on Puerto Rico. Make it an animation while you're at it. There's what's going on. No eye wall. It's fairly unorganized. Again, it's expected to strengthen as it moves up. Here's your recap. U.S. Doppler radar. And thanks for leaving comments, Mama D1K and Acrylic D. And last but not least, there is the water vapor map. Hopefully that clears things up for Earth and space weather. And thanks again for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name of news. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-A-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.